He didn't fall in love with the human I pretended to be. He fell in love with the monster I was too afraid to become. Hey, you. Yeah, you reading this right now. Before we dive into the fire, I need you to understand something. This isn't just a story about wolves and mates. This is about the masks we all wear, the secrets that rot us from the inside, the one person who can look past every lie and still choose to stay. You're going to meet Maria. You're going to meet Dante. And by the end, I promise you'll be asking yourself one question. What have I been hiding that I'm too afraid to show? If this hits you the way I think it will, do me a favor. Like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it, because we all pretend, and it's killing us. Now, let's bleed. J'ai the scent of a lie. I was 17 the first time I felt my own soul try to claw its way out of my chest just to get away from him. That should have been my first warning. Instead, I called it love. The blood was still warm on my knuckles when I heard the howl. Not a normal howl. Not the kind that drifts across the mountains on a full moon, lonely and wild. This was a command. A crack of thunder wrapped in fur and fangs. It came from the valley below, from the territory of the Shadowfang pack, and it hit me like a physical hand around my throat. I froze behind the dumpster of the gas station, my breath coming in short, sharp bursts. The man I'd just defended myself against, a drifter who'd tried to grab me when I refused to give him money, lay unconscious at my feet. His nose was broken. His jaw, probably. I'd only hit him twice. That was the problem. I'd only hit him twice. A normal human girl, an 18-year-old girl who weighed barely 120 pounds, could not shatter a grown man's jaw with her bare fist. A normal human girl did not have claws that retracted when she was angry, or a heartbeat that slowed to a crawl when she was scared, or teeth that ached with the phantom sensation of tearing flesh. But I wasn't normal. I hadn't been normal since the day I was born. My name is Maria Voss, and for 18 years, I have pretended to be human. Let me tell you what that costs. It costs waking up every morning and swallowing the silver pills my mother left me before she disappeared. 3 pills, every 12 hours. They suppress the wolf, dull the senses, keep my eyes from glowing amber when I'm angry. Without them, the change would come. And if the change came, they would find me. Who are they? Everyone. Every single werewolf in a 100-mile radius. Because I am not just a wolf. I am the last surviving heir of the Nightfire bloodline, the only pack that ever dared to challenge the Lycan King's throne. My grandmother led the rebellion. My father died in it. And my mother? She ran. She hid. She gave birth to me in a human hospital, named me Maria like any ordinary girl, and told me one thing before she vanished into the dark 6 years ago. If they ever catch your scent, Maria, they won't just kill you, they'll thank the gods for the chance. So I hid. I suppressed. I became the perfect human girl. I got good grades. I worked the night shift at the 24-hour gas station on the edge of town. I wore clothes 2 sizes too big to hide the lean, corded muscle that refused to atrophy, no matter how many silver pills I took. I never ran in gym class. I never got into fights. I never looked any alpha in the eye. And it worked. For 18 years it worked. Until tonight. Until that drifter. Until I hit him twice and felt the wolf inside me stir, yawn, and open one burning eye. And until that howl. The Shadowfang Pack's territory bordered the human town of Millbrook, where I lived. I knew the rules. Every human on the border knew the rules. Don't go into the woods after dark. Don't draw attention to yourself. Don't bleed where a wolf can smell it. The drifter was bleeding. I was bleeding. A small cut on my palm where his ring had caught me, and the howl was getting closer. I ran. Not like a human. I didn't have time for that. I ran like the wolf I was, my feet barely touching the pavement, my lungs opening up in a way that should have been impossible after years of suppression. The silver pills were wearing off. I could feel them dissolving in my stomach, their artificial chains loosening, and with every loosened chain, my senses exploded. The smell of asphalt. The rain coming in 3 hours. The copper tang of blood. The drifters, mine. And underneath it all, something else. Something wrong. A scent that made my wolf whine and snarl at the same time. Smoke and pine and old power. The scent of an alpha. No, not just an alpha. The scent of the alpha. I made it 3 blocks before they cut me off. They came out of the alleyways like shadows given teeth. 4 of them. Men in their 20s. Dressed in dark jeans and leather jackets, but their eyes were wrong. Amber. Glowing. Pupils blown wide with the shift. Wolves. Not in fur, but close. So close I could see the fangs pressing against their lower lips. "Well, well," the tallest one said. He had a scar through his eyebrow and the easy cruelty of someone who had never been told no. "Look what we caught. A little rabbit, running from the big bad wolves." I stopped. My heart was pounding, but my voice was steady. "I don't want any trouble." They laughed. 4 of them, laughing at the tiny human girl who smelled like fear and cheap gas station coffee. "You don't get to want anything anymore, sweetheart," Scar said. He stepped closer, inhaling deeply. His eyes widened. "Holy shit. Do you smell that?" The others stepped closer too. Their noses twitched. Their faces shifted from amusement to something darker. Hungrier. "She's not human," one of them breathed. "No," Scar said slowly. "She's not. She's—" He never finished the sentence. Because that's when he arrived. I didn't see him move. None of us did. One moment, the alley was empty behind them. The next, a hand the size of my head closed around the back of Scar's neck and lifted him off the ground like a puppy. "What did I say about touching things that don't belong to you?" The voice was low, quiet. The kind of quiet that comes before a natural disaster. It rolled over me like thunder, and my wolf, my stupid, reckless, suicidal wolf, whined. Not in fear. In recognition. The man holding Scar stepped into the light, and my entire world tilted sideways. He was tall. So tall I had to crane my neck to see his face. Broad shoulders that strained the seams of his black Henley. Dark hair that fell across a brow furrowed with barely contained violence. A jaw sharp enough to cut glass. And his eyes. God, his eyes. They weren't amber like the others. They weren't even gold. They were red. Deep, burning red, like embers in the heart of a fire that had been burning for centuries. He was the most beautiful and terrifying thing I'd ever seen. And he was looking at me. Not at Scar. Not at the other wolves who were now backing away with their hands raised. At me. His red eyes pinned me in place, and I felt him push against my mind. A gentle probe, testing, searching. My walls slammed up. 18 years of hiding, of lying, of pretending. I threw every mental barrier I had between us, and for a second he looked almost impressed. Then he dropped Scar, who crumpled to the ground with a choked gasp. "Leave," the red-eyed man said. He didn't shout. He didn't need to. The word carried weight, command, power. The other wolves fled so fast they left skid marks. Even Scar crawled away on his hands and knees, whimpering. And then we were alone. He took a step toward me. I took one back. "Don't," I said. My voice cracked. I hated it. He stopped. His head tilted, and for a moment the red in his eyes flickered. Something else bled through. Something that looked almost like confusion. "You're afraid of me," he said. Not a question, an observation. "You just choked a man with your bare hand. He was going to hurt you. I could have handled him." The corner of his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile. Something darker. "I know." Another step. I didn't retreat this time, because my back was against the wall, and because some traitorous part of me didn't want to. He stopped in front of me, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating off his body, close enough that I could smell him, smoke and pine and something else. Something that made my wolf pace inside my chest like a caged animal. "What's your name?" he asked. "None of your business." That almost smile again. Bold, for someone who's been hiding for 18 years. My blood turned to ice. "I don't know what you're talking about. Don't you?" He reached out and I flinched, but he only touched my hand, the one with the cut. He lifted it to his face and inhaled, his eyes closed. A sound rumbled from his chest, low and deep. A growl? A purr? I couldn't tell. When he opened his eyes again, the red was gone. In its place was something worse. Recognition. "Maria Voss," he said softly. "Daughter of Elena Voss. Granddaughter of Lyra Nightfire. Last of the bloodline that tried to burn my throne to ash." He knew. He knew everything. And he was still holding my hand. "My name is Dante," he said. "And you, little wolf, have been hiding in my territory for 18 years. He pulled me closer, not roughly, gently, almost, like I was something precious. But his grip was iron, and his eyes were fire, and when he spoke again, his voice dropped to a whisper that I felt in my bones. "You're going to tell me everything. And then I'm going to decide whether to kill you or keep you." His thumb brushed over my pulse point. It was racing. "So far," he murmured, "I'm leaning toward keep." End of part 1. What do you think? Is Dante going to kill her or claim her? And why does his wolf recognize hers so immediately? Drop your theories in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Part 2 is going to get a lot darker. For part 2, the taste of Ash Hook. He didn't kill me. He didn't mark me. He did something so much worse. He looked at me like I was already his, and walked away. The holding cell was not a cell. That was the first thing I noticed when the blindfold came off. I'd expected iron bars, silver chains, maybe a dungeon carved into the mountain with rats and old bones. What I got was a bedroom. A massive bedroom. The kind you see in magazines about castles in Eastern Europe. Stone walls draped with tapestries of wolves hunting under a full moon. A fireplace big enough to roast a boar, currently crackling with flames that threw dancing shadows across a 4-poster bed draped in black silk. A window that looked out over a valley so deep and dark I couldn't see the bottom. The Shadowfang Pack's territory, the heart of their mountain stronghold. I was in the Lycan King's house, and the Lycan King was nowhere to be seen. 2 hours. That's how long I'd been sitting on the edge of that ridiculous bed, my hands folded in my lap like a schoolgirl waiting for the principal. No one had come. No one had spoken to me. The only sounds were the crackle of the fire and the distant howl of wolves patrolling the borders. My mother's voice echoed in my head. "If they ever catch your scent, Maria, they won't just kill you, they'll thank the gods for the chance." So why was I in a silk-draped bedroom instead of a silver-lined grave? I stood up, paced to the window. The glass was cold against my forehead. Below, I could see torches flickering in the compound. Guards, servants, wolves going about their nightly business. They moved with purpose, with discipline. This wasn't a pack. It was an army. And at its head was a man with red eyes who had called me Little Wolf like it was an endearment. The door opened. I didn't turn around. I'd learned a long time ago that showing fear was the same as showing your throat. So I kept my back straight, my hands loose at my sides, and my face blank as Dante walked into the room. He'd changed clothes. The black Henley was gone, yet replaced by a simple white linen shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows. His forearms were corded with muscle, crisscrossed with scars that caught the firelight. Silver rings glinted on his fingers. His hair was damp, like he'd just washed his face. He looked tired. He looked dangerous. He looked at me like I was the only real thing in the room. "You haven't tried to escape," he said, closing the door behind him. "Would it have worked?" "No." "Then why waste the energy?" His lips curved, not quite a smile, something closer to approval. He crossed the room slowly, deliberately, like he was giving me time to run. I didn't. I stood my ground as he stopped in front of me, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. The red was back. Faint this time, like embers banked for the night. "Sit down." Maria." "No." I wasn't asking. And I wasn't answering. The fire popped, the silence stretched, and then Dante did something I didn't expect. He laughed. It was a short sound, rough and surprised, like he hadn't meant to let it out. He ran a hand through his dark hair and shook his head. "You really are her daughter." "I don't know what that means." "Yes, you do." He walked to the fireplace and leaned against the mantel, his profile sharp against the flames. "Elena Voss, the woman who broke into my father's stronghold, stole his battle plans, and disappeared into the night with a blade still buried in his shoulder. She was fearless, reckless, and ultimately, foolish. She was trying to save her people. She was trying to start a war she couldn't win." His voice hardened. "And she failed. Your grandmother failed. Everyone who has ever raised a hand against the Lycan throne has failed. Do you know why?" I didn't answer, but my wolf did, pressing against my ribs, listening. "Because power isn't taken," Dante said quietly. "It's inherited. It's bred. It's burned into the blood of the first wolf who ever looked at the moon and decided to rule instead of follow. That blood runs in my veins, and it runs in yours." I froze. "What?" He turned to face me fully. The firelight carved his face into something ancient and merciless. "You heard me. The Nightfire bloodline didn't just rebel against the throne, Maria. They split from it. Your grandmother was my grandfather's sister. She wanted to share power. He wanted to keep it. And when she couldn't convince him, she tried to take it by force." His voice dropped. "You and I are cousins. Distant. Separated by 3 generations of war and bad blood. But the same wolf howls in both of us." I sat down. Not because he told me to. Because my legs stopped working. Cousins. The Lycan King and I were family. The blood that made him the most feared predator in the world was the same blood that made me a fugitive, hiding in gas stations and swallowing silver pills. "You're lying," I whispered. "I never lie." He crouched in front of me, bringing his face level with mine. "It's inefficient, and I don't need to. The truth is always more devastating." He reached out and took my hand again, the same hand he'd touched in the alley. This time, he turned it over and pressed his thumb against my palm, right where the cut was healing. "Your wolf is strong," he said softly, "stronger than any suppressor should allow. You've been poisoning yourself for 18 years, and still, when I touch you, she knows me. She doesn't. She whined, Maria, in the alley. When she saw me, she whined." His red eyes burned brighter. "Do you know what that means?" I did. Every child of wolf blood knew what it meant. But I refused to say it. I refused to give him the satisfaction. He said it anyway.
You and I.
"It means we're mates."
No matter.
The word hit me like a physical blow. Mates. The one thing every wolf dreamed of and dreaded in equal measure. A bond so deep, so primal, that it overrode logic, loyalty, even self-preservation. Mates were chosen by the moon, by fate, by some cosmic force that didn't care about politics or blood feuds, or the fact that my grandmother had tried to kill his grandfather. "No," I said. "Oh, yes. I don't accept it." "You don't have to." He stood up, and just like that, the warmth was gone. His face hardened into something cold and unreadable. "The bond doesn't care about your acceptance. It exists whether you want it to or not. The only question is what we do about it. He walked to the door, paused with his hand on the handle. You'll stay here tonight. Tomorrow we'll begin. Begin what? He looked over his shoulder. The fire caught the red in his eyes, and for just a moment, I saw something beneath the mask. Something lonely. Something hungry. The truth, he said. About your mother. About the war. About why she really left you in that human town, with nothing but silver pills and a lie. He opened the door. And Maria. I didn't answer. My throat was too tight. Don't try to run. His voice was soft, almost gentle. I would find you, and I would bring you back. And the next time, I wouldn't give you a bedroom. He left. The door closed with a click that sounded like a cage locking. I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, staring at the flames. My hand, the one he'd touched, still tingled. My wolf was pacing, restless, wanting. I hated her for it. I hated him for it. But most of all, I hated the small, traitorous voice in my head that whispered, he didn't kill you. He didn't chain you. He brought you to his home. He told you the truth. What kind of monster does that? The answer came to me as the fire burned low and the howls outside grew softer. The kind of monster who doesn't need to force you to stay, because he knows you'll come to him on your own. End of part 2. The mate bond changes everything. But here's the question burning in my mind, and I want you to answer it in the comments. Can you hate someone you're destined to love? And what would you do if fate chose your worst enemy as your soulmate? Subscribe now so you don't miss part 3. Things are about to get possessive. Part 3. The hunger in his eyes. Hook. He made me train with his wolves. He made me run until my lungs bled. And then, when I collapsed at his feet, he knelt beside me and whispered, if anyone else touches you, I will burn their world to ash. The training yard was a scar in the earth, carved into the mountainside behind the stronghold. It was nothing but packed dirt, wooden dummies, and the smell of sweat and blood. Wolves circled the perimeter, so their eyes tracking my every movement. Guards, watchers, an audience for my humiliation. Dante stood in the center of the yard, arms crossed, face unreadable. Again, he said. I was on my knees. My knuckles were raw. My ribs ached from where one of his warriors had thrown me into the dirt for the 5th time. The silver pills had worn off completely now. I could feel my wolf surging beneath my skin, begging to be let out, but I refused. I'd spent 18 years suppressing her. I wasn't about to let her loose just because a handsome tyrant told me to. No, I gasped. Dante's eyes narrowed. He walked toward me, his boots crunching on the gravel, and crouched down until we were face to face, close enough that I could see the flecks of gold in his red irises, close enough that I could smell him, smoke and pine and something darker, and something that made my wolf whine. You have 2 choices, Maria, he said quietly. You can learn to control your wolf, or your wolf will control you, and when that happens, she won't care who she hurts. Maybe I want to hurt people. Maybe you do. His gaze dropped to my mouth, lingered, but not innocent people. Not the ones who were only following orders. I wanted to argue. I wanted to spit in his face. But the truth was, he was right. The wolf inside me was angry, not just at Dante, but at the world. At my mother for leaving. At my grandmother for starting a war she couldn't win. At the moon itself for cursing me with a bloodline I never asked for. If I lost control, people would die. Fine, I said through gritted teeth. Teach me. Something flickered in Dante's eyes. Approval? Hunger? I couldn't tell. He stood and offered me his hand. I didn't take it. I got to my feet on my own, and for some reason that made him smile. Good, he said. Now, hit me. What? Hit me, hard as you can. Don't hold back. I stared at him. He was a foot taller than me, 200 pounds of muscle and ancient power. I was a girl who'd spent her whole life pretending to be weak. But I wasn't weak. I drew my arm back and punched him in the face. He didn't flinch, didn't even blink. My fist connected with his jaw with a crack that should have broken bone, and he just stood there, looking at me like I'd slapped him with a feather. Again, he said. I punched him again, and again, and again. Each hit harder than the last, fueled by 18 years of fear and loneliness and rage. My knuckles split. Blood dripped down my fingers. And still, he didn't move. Finally, my arms gave out. I stood there, panting, shaking, tears burning in my eyes that I refused to let fall. "Feel better?" he asked. "No." "Good." He reached out and took my bloody hand in his. His thumb traced over my torn knuckles, and I felt the strange tingle of his power, healing me, sealing the wounds, leaving nothing but smooth skin behind. Because you're not supposed to. Anger is fuel, Maria, not a destination. He released my hand and stepped back. Again. The weeks that followed blurred into a nightmare of sweat and moonlight. Dante trained me personally. Every morning, before the sun rose, he would come to my room, the same silk-draped chamber I still couldn't believe was mine, and he would walk me to the training yard. And every morning, I would tell myself that today would be the day I refused, that I would stay in bed, or run, or scream. And every morning I followed him like a wolf on a leash. He taught me to fight, not like a human, like a wolf. He taught me to feel my bones shift, my claws extend, my senses sharpen. He taught me to listen to the wolf without letting her take control. He taught me to be strong. And in the quiet moments between, when we sat on the edge of the training yard, sharing a water skin, watching the stars fade, he taught me about himself. His father had been a tyrant, cruel, paranoid, bloodthirsty. He'd ruled the Shadowfang pack with fear and iron, and when Dante had challenged him for the throne at 19, the old wolf had laughed in his face. He said I was too soft, Dante told me one night, his voice low and distant. Too compassionate, too human. He said I would never be strong enough to lead. "What happened?" I asked. Dante was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was empty. "I proved him wrong." He didn't elaborate. I didn't ask. But I noticed the way his hands curled into fists, and the way his wolf flashed behind his eyes. Something wounded. Something savage. He wasn't just the Lycan king. He was a survivor. And that, more than anything else, made me start to see him differently. It happened on the 47th day. We were sparring, actually sparring, not just him letting me hit him. I'd gotten good, fast, strong. My wolf and I were learning to work together, to move as one. I could dodge his strikes now, could land a few of my own. But that night, something changed. A new wolf joined the training session. Kyle, one of Dante's enforcers, a hulking brute with a shaved head and cold eyes. He'd been watching me for weeks, his gaze always lingering a little too long, his smile always a little too sharp. Dante had noticed. I'd noticed him noticing. But neither of us had said anything. Until Kale stepped into the ring. "I'll spar with her," Kyle said, cracking his knuckles. "Give you a break, Alpha." Dante's jaw tightened. "No. Come on." Kyle grinned. "She's getting soft. Needs a real challenge." Before Dante could respond, I stepped forward. "Fine." Dante's hand shot out, grabbing my arm. His grip was bruising. His eyes were blazing red. "Maria, I can handle it. That's not the point." But I was already moving, pulling free of his grip, stepping into the circle with Kyle. The other wolves formed a ring around us, their eyes bright with anticipation. Kyle lunged. He was fast. Faster than I expected. His fist caught me in the ribs, and I staggered, pain exploding through my side. I heard Dante snarl, a sound of pure, primal rage, but I didn't look at him. I couldn't. Kale came at me again. This time, I was ready. I ducked under his swing, drove my elbow into his kidney, and swept his legs out from under him. He hit the dirt hard, and for a second I thought it was over. Then he shifted. Not fully, just his hands. They became claws, long, curved, gleaming in the torchlight. He swiped at my face, and I barely leaned back in time. The claws caught my shoulder instead, tearing through my shirt and into my skin. I screamed, not from the pain.
Get away from her!
My wolf surged. My bones cracked. My vision went red. I felt my own claws extend, felt my fangs drop, felt the change ripped through me like a wildfire. I was going to kill him. I was going to tear his throat out with my teeth. And then Dante was there. He moved between us like a wall of muscle and fury. His hand closed around Kale's throat, and he lifted the larger wolf off the ground with one arm. Kyle choked, clawing at Dante's grip, but Dante didn't even seem to notice. "I gave you an order," Dante said, his voice deadly quiet. "I said no. Alpha, she wanted to. She is mine." The words rang across the training yard like a bell. Her pain is mine. Her blood is mine. Every inch of her belongs to me, and you dared to mark her? He threw Kale across the yard. The enforcer hit the stone wall with a sickening crack and slumped to the ground, also unconscious. Dante turned to me. His eyes were completely red now. No pupil, no iris, just fire. His chest was heaving. His hands were shaking. And when he looked at the blood soaking through my torn shirt, a sound came out of him that I had never heard before. A whine, the alpha of all wolves, the Lycan king, whining like a wounded pup. He stepped toward me and I didn't back away. I couldn't. My wolf was still roaring in my ears, but beneath the rage there was something else. Something that wanted him to come closer. Something that needed him to touch me. He did. His hands cupped my face so gently it hurt. His thumbs wiped the tears from my cheeks, tears I hadn't realized I was crying. He pressed his forehead to mine, and his breath was hot against my lips. "If anyone else touches you," he whispered, "I will burn their world to ash. Dante, you are mine, Maria." His voice broke on the words. Not because I say so, not because the moon chose it, because I have spent 47 days watching you fight and bleed and refuse to break, and I have fallen so deep into you that I don't know where I end and you begin. He pulled back just enough to look into my eyes. "Tell me you don't feel it," he said. "Tell me, and I'll let you go. I'll walk away right now, and I'll never touch you again." I opened my mouth, and nothing came out. Because I couldn't lie to him. Not anymore. I felt it. Every nerve, every breath, every beat of my heart. I felt the bond pulling us together like two stars caught in the same gravity. I felt his hunger, his loneliness, his desperate need to be seen, and I felt my own. "I can't," I whispered. His eyes flared. "Can't what?" "Can't tell you I don't feel it." For one heartbeat, nothing happened. And then Dante kissed me. It was not gentle. It was not soft. It was a claiming, a branding, a promise written in fire, in teeth and the taste of blood. His hands fisted in my hair. My claws dug into his shoulders. We kissed like we were trying to devour each other, like the world was ending, and this was the only thing that mattered. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. Dante looked at me with something I'd never seen in anyone's eyes before. Not just desire, devotion. "Tomorrow," he said, his voice rough, "we go to the human town. We find out why your mother left you there. We find out what she was hiding." He touched my cheek. "And then, Maria, we end this war. End of part 3. The kiss changes everything. But here's what I need you to think about. Dante said he'd let Maria go if she told him she didn't feel the bond. Could you have walked away? Could anyone? Comment your answer below. And subscribe now. Part 4 is where the truth about Maria's mother comes out, and trust me, you're not ready for it. Part 4, the grave of secrets. Hook, the house was still standing. The silver pills were still in the medicine cabinet, and in my mother's closet, hidden behind her winter coats, was a box with my name on it, and a note that said, "If you're reading this, he found you. And I'm so sorry." Millbrook looked smaller than I remembered. The human town sprawled at the base of the Shadowfang Mountains, a patchwork of streetlights and convenience stores and houses with peeling paint. I'd lived here for 18 years, walked these sidewalks, breathed this air, and now, standing at the edge of the town line with Dante beside me, it felt like a foreign country. "You okay?" he asked. No, I was not okay. I was wearing a leather jacket one of his wolves had given me to cover the claw marks on my shoulder, already healed thanks to wolf blood, but the memory of Kale's attack still burned. I was standing next to a man who had kissed me like he wanted to crawl inside my skin, and I was about to walk into the house where my mother had raised me, abandoned me, and left me with nothing but questions. "Fine," I said. Dante didn't push. He just fell into step beside me, close enough that our shoulders brushed, is far enough that I could pretend I had a choice. The pack had given us a cover story. Dante was a distant cousin visiting from out of state. I was showing him around. The humans in Millbrook were used to me keeping to myself. They wouldn't ask too many questions. The key was still under the mat. My hands were shaking as I unlocked the front door. The smell hit me first. Dust. Disuse. The faint, sweet scent of the lavender candles my mother used to burn. It was like walking into a tomb. Dante stepped in behind me, his presence filling the small living room. His red eyes swept over the faded couch, the stack of old books, the photograph on the mantel, me at 12, gap-toothed and grinning, my mother's arm around my shoulders. "She loved you," Dante said quietly. "She left me. That doesn't mean she didn't love you." I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because if I let myself believe that, if I let myself think that my mother's abandonment was anything other than betrayal, then I would have to face the possibility that she had a reason, a good reason, and that terrified me more than anything. We searched the house room by room. The kitchen was empty. The bathroom held nothing but expired medicine and moldy towels. My old bedroom was exactly how I'd left it, the same posters on the walls, the same stuffed animal on the bed, the same diary hidden under the mattress. I picked up the diary, flipped through the pages. The last entry was dated 6 years ago, the night my mother disappeared. "Maria, if you're reading this, I love you. I love you more than the moon loves the sky. But I can't stay. They're coming. And if they find you with me, they'll kill us both. Be brave. Be human. And whatever you do, don't trust the wolves." I closed the diary. "She was wrong," Dante said from the doorway. "About what?" "About not trusting wolves." He stepped into the room, his eyes soft. "You can trust me." "Can I? You're still breathing, aren't you?" It wasn't an answer, but it was the closest thing to one I'd ever get. We found the box in my mother's closet. It was hidden behind her winter coats, a small wooden box carved with the image of a wolf howling at the moon. My name was etched into the lid in elegant script, and tucked under the latch was a folded piece of paper. I opened it with shaking hands. "Maria, if you're reading this, he found you, the Lichen King, the one with red eyes. I knew he would, eventually. I hoped he wouldn't. But I knew. You have every right to hate me. I left you alone. I lied to you. I made you swallow poison every day and told you it was medicine. But I did it to keep you alive. The truth is, you were never meant to be human. The silver pills weren't suppressing your wolf. They were suppressing your power. Because you, my daughter, are not just a wolf. You are the first true lichen born in 100 years. The Nightfire bloodline wasn't cursed. It was blessed, and the Lichen King knows it. He will try to claim you. He will try to use you. But remember this. You don't belong to him. You don't belong to anyone. You belong to yourself. I love you. I'm sorry. And I'm watching. Mom. The paper slipped from my fingers. Lichen. Not wolf. Lichen. The difference was everything. Wolves could shift, could heal, could live for centuries. But lichens? Lichens were the originals. The first ones. The ones who could command wolves with a single word, who could bend nature to their will, who could... Maria! Dante's voice was sharp, urgent. I looked up, and his face was pale. What does it say? I couldn't tell him. I couldn't. Because if I told him the truth, that I was lichen, that I was stronger than him, that I was everything his family had feared and tried to destroy, then everything would change. But he was already picking up the letter. I tried to grab it. He held it out of reach, his red eyes scanning the page. I watched his face shift from confusion to shock, to something I couldn't name. When he looked at me again, his eyes were wet. "You're a lichen," he said. I didn't know. A true lichen. Born. Not made. I didn't know. He stepped toward me. I stepped back. My back hit the wall, and he caged me in with his arms, his face inches from mine. "Do you understand what this means?" His voice was barely a whisper. "You are the only one who can challenge me, the only one who can take my throne, the only one who can... I don't want your throne. Then what do you want?" The question hung between us, heavy and raw. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to go back to being the human girl who worked at the gas station and never looked any alpha in the eye, but I couldn't, because that girl had never existed. "I want the truth," I said finally. "All of it. No more secrets. No more lies. Tell me why my grandmother really started the war. Tell me why my mother ran. Tell me why you didn't kill me the moment you smelled my blood." Dante closed his eyes. When he opened them again, the red was gone. In its place was something I had never seen before. Fear. "Because I knew," he said. "From the moment I caught your scent in that alley, I knew what you were. And I knew that if I killed you, I would be killing the only chance I'd ever have." "Chance for what?" He pressed his forehead to mine. "To be loved," he whispered. "Not as the Lichen King. Not as a monster. But as me." End of part 4. The truth is out. Maria is a lichen. Stronger than Dante, more powerful than anyone expected. So why hasn't she challenged him? Why is she still standing in his arms, instead of reaching for the throne? I want your theories in the comments. And subscribe now. Part 5 is where the mate bond finally snaps, and trust me, it's going to hurt. Part 5. The burning. The bond snapped on a Tuesday. No warning. No ceremony. One moment I was standing in the kitchen making coffee. The next, I was on my knees screaming, as every cell in my body caught fire. It started small. A headache behind my eyes that I ignored. A restlessness in my limbs that I blamed on too much coffee. A hunger that no amount of food could satisfy. By the 3rd day, I knew something was wrong. By the 5th, I couldn't eat at all. Dante noticed before I did. Of course he did. He noticed everything about me. The way I chewed my lip when I was thinking. The way I curled my toes when I was nervous. The way I held my breath every time he walked into a room. "You're pale," he said on the 6th morning, catching my chin in his hand and tilting my face to the light. "When did you last sleep?" "I don't remember." His jaw tightened. "Maria?" "I'm fine. You're not fine." He released me and paced to the window, his hands fisting at his sides. "The bond is pulling, harder than it should. Something's wrong. Maybe it's just, I don't know, settling?" He turned to look at me, and the expression on his face made my stomach drop. "The bond doesn't settle, Maria. It burns. It burns until we complete it." "Complete it?" He meant the marking, the claiming, the ritual that would bind us together for eternity, mind, body, and soul. I'd been avoiding the thought for weeks, pushing it down, pretending it wasn't there. But the bond didn't care about my avoidance. And now, it was making me pay. The pain started that night. I woke up gasping, my skin on fire, my bones aching like they were being ground to dust. The wolf inside me was howling, not in rage, not in hunger, but in need. A desperate primal need that I couldn't name and couldn't escape. I stumbled out of bed. My legs gave out. I hit the floor hard, my hands scrabbling at the cold stone, and I screamed. The door burst open. Dante was there, shirtless, his eyes blazing red, his chest heaving. He dropped to his knees beside me, his hands cupping my face, and the moment he touched me, the pain eased. Just a little. Just enough for me to breathe. "It's the bond," he said, his voice ragged. "It's rejecting the suppression." "What suppression?" "Your mother's pills. The silver. It's still in your system. The bond is trying to burn it out." Another wave of pain crashed over me. I screamed again, and Dante pulled me into his arms, holding me against his chest. His heart was pounding. His hands were shaking. "You have to mark me," he said. "What?" "The bond needs completion. If we don't, Maria, if we don't, the pain will get worse. It will keep getting worse until what?" He didn't answer, but his silence was answer enough. Until I died. I fought it. For 3 days, I fought it. Dante stayed by my side the whole time. He held me when I convulsed. He wiped the sweat from my brow. He whispered to me in the dark, stories about his childhood, about the woods he used to run in, about the first time he saw the moon, and knew he was something more than human. And the pain grew. By the 3rd night, I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't do anything but lie in Dante's arms and wait for the end. "Please," I whispered. My voice was a thread. "Do it." Dante's eyes were wet. "You don't know what you're asking." "I'm asking you to save my life." "It's not just a mark, Maria. It's a claiming. Once I do this, you are mine. Forever. There's no going back. There's no going back anyway." I reached up with a trembling hand and touched his face. "Dante's. I'm dying." He closed his eyes. A tear slipped down his cheek, and then he lowered his head to my neck. His breath was hot against my skin. His fangs grazed my pulse point, and I felt my wolf surge forward, welcoming him, begging for him. The bond roared in my ears, a symphony of fire and need. "I love you," he whispered. And then he bit down. The world exploded. I felt everything. His teeth sinking into my flesh, his power flooding into my veins, his soul pressing against mine, merging, becoming. I saw his memories, his father's cruelty, his mother's death, the loneliness of a throne that had never wanted him. I felt his pain, his rage, his desperate, aching need to be loved. And he felt mine. My mother's abandonment, the years of hiding, the fear that I would never belong anywhere, to anyone. The hope I'd buried so deep I'd forgotten it existed. When it was over, we were both crying. Dante pulled back. His lips were stained with my blood. His eyes were no longer red. They were gold. My gold. "Look," he said, touching my cheek. "Your eyes." I didn't need a mirror. I could feel them. The amber I'd suppressed for 18 years was gone. In its place was something new, something lichen. I sat up. My body no longer hurt. My wolf was quiet, not suppressed, but satisfied. Whole. For the first time in my life, I felt complete. "What happens now?" I asked. Dante smiled. It was the first real smile I'd ever seen from him, and it transformed his face into something almost young. "Now," he said, "we go to war." End of part 5. The bond is complete. Maria is marked. But war is coming, and not everyone in Dante's pack is happy about their new Lycan queen. What do you think happens next? Who's going to betray them first? Comment your predictions below, and subscribe now for the final part, where every secret is revealed and every choice has a cost. Part 6. The Throne of Blood and Bone Hook. They came for us at midnight, yet not the Shadowfang pack, not the rogues, the humans, with silver bullets and fire and a hatred older than the moon itself. The war didn't start the way I expected. There were no battle lines, no declarations, no dramatic speeches about honor and revenge. It started with a phone call, a human woman in Millbrook who reported a wild animal attacking her livestock. Then another call. Then 10. By the time Dante and I realized what was happening, the humans had already formed a mob. They came to the mountain with torches and rifles and silver-tipped bullets. They came with fear in their eyes and hate in their hearts. They came because they had always known we were here, and they had always been waiting for an excuse to destroy us. The first shot killed one of Dante's sentries. The second killed 2 more, and then the mountain exploded into chaos. I fought beside Dante that night, not as his mate,
the power is
not
awakening.
as his queen,
I feel it.
as his equal.
Channeling my
My Lycan blood sang in my veins, and every time I raised my hand, the humans fell. I didn't want to kill them, but they gave me no choice. The battle lasted until dawn. When it was over, the mountainside was littered with bodies, wolves and humans alike. The snow was stained red. The silence was deafening. Dante stood in the center of the carnage, his chest heaving, his hands dripping with blood. He looked at me, and for the first time I saw the weight of his crown. "This is what they want," he said. "They want us to become monsters. We're not monsters. Aren't we?" He gestured at the bodies. "Look at what we've done." I walked to him, took his bloody hands in mine. We
It's
defended
working. The
ourselves.
cold is receding.
There's
Look,
a
the
difference.
shadows are moving.
Is there? I didn't have an answer, but I held his hands anyway. And after a long moment, he squeezed back. The aftermath was worse than the battle. The humans retreated, but they would be back. They would always be back. Because as long as wolves existed, humans would fear them. And as long as humans feared them, they would try to destroy them. Dante called a pack meeting that night. Every wolf in the Shadowfang territory gathered in the Great Hall. Hundreds of them, their eyes bright in the torchlight. They looked to him for answers, for leadership, for hope. And he gave it to them. "We will not retaliate," he said. "We will not burn their towns. We will not slaughter their children, because if we do, we become the monsters they believe us to be." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Discontent, disagreement. "Instead," Dante continued, "we will build. We will strengthen our borders. We will train our young, and we will wait. Because the humans will come again, and when they do, we will be ready. Not for war, but for peace." "Peace?" one of the elders spat. "They just killed 20 of our wolves, and we killed 40 of theirs." Dante's voice was hard. "How many more have to die before you realize that violence only breeds violence?" The elder fell silent. The crowd shifted, and then, slowly, one by one, they nodded. Dante had won, not with force, with wisdom, and I had never loved him more. Later that night, we stood on the balcony of the stronghold, looking out over the valley. The moon was full, just casting silver light across the snow. The bodies had been cleared. The blood had been washed away, but the scars would remain. "You did well today," I said. "We did well." Dante wrapped his arm around my waist, pulling me against his side. "I couldn't have done it without you." "Yes, you could have." "No." He turned to face me, his gold eyes soft. "I couldn't. Because before you, Maria, I was alone. I was the Lycan king, and I had power, and I had fear. But I didn't have this. He touched his chest, over his heart. You made me human, he said. Not weak. Human. You reminded me that strength isn't about how many enemies you can kill. It's about how many people you can save. I leaned into him, resting my head on his chest. His heart beat steady and strong beneath my ear. What happens now? I asked. Now, he said. We live. We build. We love. And we pray. That's enough. Here's what I want you to take from this story, and I'm going to say it plain, so there's no confusion. You are not the mask you wear. Maria spent 18 years pretending to be human. She swallowed poison every day. She hid her strength, her power, herself. And she almost died because of it. How many of us are doing the same thing? How many of us are pretending to be something we're not? At work, at home, in our relationships, because we're afraid of what will happen if we tell the truth? The mate bond in this story isn't just about wolves and fated love. It's about the people who see us. Really see us. The ones who look past the lies and the masks and the carefully constructed walls and love us anyway. Dante didn't fall in love with the human girl. We fell in love with the lichen. The powerful one. The dangerous one. The one Maria was too afraid to become. And Maria didn't fall in love with the lichen king. She fell in love with the lonely boy beneath the crown. The one who had been hurt and betrayed and left alone. They saw each other, not the masks, the truth. And that, more than anything else, is what saved them. So here's my question for you, and I want you to really think about it. Who sees you? Not who sees what you want them to see. Who sees you? The messy, complicated, beautiful, terrifying truth of who you are. And if no one does, if you're still hiding, still pretending, still swallowing silver pills and calling it survival, then maybe it's time to stop. Maybe it's time to let someone in. Maybe it's time to let the wolf out. The end. Thank you for reading. I poured my heart into this story, and if it moved you, if it made you feel something, think something, question something, then please do me one last favor. Like, subscribe and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because we all have a mask. We all have a secret. And we all deserve someone who will see through it and stay. See you in the next story. Fida.